Hey folks, this is Dan from Discern. I got another set of mini album reviews for you for the second week of February. Being an even week, let's start with my favorite album first. Number one from last week, Dave Barnes with the cleverly titled Hymns for Her. Dave Barnes, he is a folk country acoustic artist. He's got some bluegrass influences too. You probably know him most from his really popular songs God Gave Me You and Little Lies, the sounds of which do not bleed into this EP at all. This EP is it's a collection of songs to or about Dave's wife. It's not trying to be a relatable pop sensation so much as it feels like a gift for his wife. It's not really trying to be much more than that. One of my favorite tracks on here, the second track, Tell Her You Do, features some fantastic string parts, these warm, enveloping cellos, these bright, soaring, trembling violins. They're really captivating. They set the song apart. We got also the third track, Headlights, which, if you understand the story behind that, just takes it to another level. I guess it's about when Dave and his wife were dating, and he'd be waiting in anticipation for her to arrive, and she's coming to meet him, and he's waiting for the headlights to come down the road, and just the thoughts of being with her again. Obviously, when you know that, it gives a whole new intimacy and personality to this song. The fourth track, Mississippi, this track floored me. It's an instrumental track, which I think is a nice touch on this record. Beautifully intricate playing from the guitars, the keys, the strings, and the strings at the end, just an incredible sound. That track took this album right to the top of my list from last week. These songs on this EP are mature, they're sensitive, personal. Each song is easily enjoyable from the very first listen, but they're deep. They're something that you can come back to and hear again without growing old. If you want to write an album for your spouse, I guess this would be a good place to start for inspiration. And the strings on this album, too, just such an icing on the cake. They're well performed. They fit incredibly well in the mix, just sound beautifully. Number two, Yaves, In Winter's Ear. Yaves is a rapper from Cincinnati, Ohio. He's previously recorded under The Street Pastor, but, even since 2011, he's been recording under Yaves. This is a follow-up to In Summer's Ear from 2011 and In Autumn's Ear from 2012. Yaves is just such an interesting guy, too. I mean, he's got his master's degree in counseling and pastoral care. He's incredibly involved in his community in Columbus, Ohio. I think he previously applied to be, in city council. He's got aspirations to be mayor of Columbus one day, and he's only 28 to top it all off. I mean, to accomplish as much as he has at his age, it just shows his dedication. Production on this EP was done by a number of different people. It's pretty varied then sonically, from jazz to more trap-inspired beats and instrumentals. The second track, Revolver, I love the bass line. Simple, yet it grooves nicely. It's got great hooks on this track. There's only really one at the start and one at the end, and then from I think it's Keisha Solil. But he raps, Yaves raps in the middle of those. It's about the stupidity of this culture, that needs to revolve. It needs to come around and realize that their thoughts, their supposed intellect about God and life is just absolute foolishness. The track Down Bad, you've got an R&B sort of jazz soul feel from the keys, drums, bass. I think there's even a vocoder, maybe some horns in there. Just a lot of soul. I thought halting the rhyme and calling out the clever Russia-Ukraine rhyme was pretty clever. Another great track, Chains and Whips. That's one of my favorite tracks on this EP. It's got great flow, great verses, clever rhymes. It's about the slavery that still exists in ghettos and poor neighborhoods. These people are enchained and trapped by low expectations, drugs, commercialism, labels. The entire community and system just keeps these folks stuck instead of liberating them. And there's a great line in there, just a bunch of slaves digging graves and designer kicks. The answer to this problem is foggy, though. He's saying things like praying with the pastors, bring the sheep into the pasture, look in the mirror, love what you see. He doesn't necessarily get a full explanation of how to fix it. It's more of an explanation of what's going on. It's a commentary. Another track, Say That, it's sort of a laid-back trap beat, and it's got clever rhymes, these deep thoughts. Not exactly sure what the overall song is about. I had that feeling on a number of tracks where I would pick up individual phrases, individual sections where I would understand what he's talking about, but when you try to tie the whole thing together, I didn't necessarily know what his purpose was or what he was singing about or rapping about. A standout track I thought on this EP, Blood Covered Snow. It's got these thick rumbling drums, almost a tribal sound, kind of unorthodox to the rap genre. The song is from the perspective of like a 17-year-old boy who's bleeding out in the snow, and he takes you back to show you how he got there. He's this pompous teen, always getting into beefs with people. He got in over his head with an older Dominican guy and ends up taking 3 shots in the chest. Powerful imagery from the lyrics and the instrumental. I mean, you even hear this like Dominican chatter and drums that bring you right into the situation. It's very dramatic. On this EP and on previous records from Yaves, he isn't really teaching like a pastor like most Christian rappers do, but he's more, rapping from with Christian observations on life, mostly outside the church. The themes of this album, I mean, they're good for all people, especially Christians, to think about. For most of these tracks, it's not about a theology, it's more about a worldview that comes from Christianity. I really appreciate that not all of his clever rhymes are straight metaphors. Some rappers are only clever when they're saying such and such like blank, or like blank, like blank. And just because you toss a bunch of metaphors around doesn't mean that your rhymes help the continuity of the track, that there's a clever purpose to what you're doing. And I just appreciate that he uses a lot of these clever, insightful phrases that work to further and explain the message of the track rather than just show off his skill. Number 3 from last week, Clemency, You've Got the Fire. Clemency is an indie rock, sort of a folk rock pop band from brothers Jason and Paul Watkins from Nashville. They've got this poppy, upbeat indie rock sound with some of that, indie folk sound of claps and thumping kick drum. The themes of these songs on this EP are as old as pop itself. It's about falling in love with a girl. These songs, though, they're executed really well. The music and the mood matches these themes well. The music is tight. It's executed well. It's not too inventive or new, but it's produced really well. It sounds great. The story of this EP is also told visually through a set of 6 videos that they posted before the release of this EP. The videos seem to expand the love, I think, between the couple out to kind of a larger community. I didn't really sense that from the lyrics, but, maybe it's just meant to say that love is infectious, which I agree with. The first half of this EP is where it really soars. The second half, especially tracks 4 and 5, definitely dip. They sort of lose focus. Tracks 4 and 5 kind of seem like they're out of place. It's like they're not sung within the story of these young lovers. It's like they're directed at the listener, which pulls me completely out of the story. The song Color Hit the Canvas, the first track, great imagery. It really captures the joy, the excitement of falling in love. This girl comes into his life, fills the blank canvas of his current life with her myriad of colors. The mood of this record, I mean, that song, and I would say especially the first 3 tracks, the mood really reminds me of how I felt when I first got engaged. It's the bliss and wide eyes that you feel about the other person, just unhindered love. I think the short length of this EP really helps it overall. If this was a 45-minute album, I think it would grow a little stale. It would need more dynamics, more variation. But instead of feeling like a prom that drags on and on and on, this 20-minute EP feels like a short dance party. And finally, number 4, my least favorite album that I listened to this week, Brandon Heath, No Turning Back. Brandon Heath, obviously a CCM artist. He's sometimes bright and poppy. Other times he's low-key, story-driven folk, sort of a country feel. This is Brandon's 6th full-length album since 2006. Musically, I think he makes a better CCM pop track than most. It's got a great mood, infectious guitar and piano leads. Lyrically, though, his tracks have to be wrung out to find even a few drops of the gospel. These are me and God relationship tracks with a sprinkle of biblical themes and verses. Yet again, it's a worship album that doesn't do the one thing that worship should be focused around. It's what Paul said was of first importance: the exaltation of Christ based on his life, death, and resurrection on behalf of sinners. That's the story of redemption. The track Only Just Met You, the lyrics are from the perspective of a new believer, head over heels for Jesus. Call me a cynic, but this trite description of a new believer is this type of flighty emotionalism that usually fades away. On the track No Turning Back, it's a shame that that feature with All Sons and Daughters is such a flop of a song. The whole track is mostly void of experimentation or creativity. I mean, has anyone ever written a song about deciding to follow Jesus? Oh, has anyone ever named a song No Turning Back? Maybe this song is so stereotypical because All Sons and Daughters are on this track. I'll just be honest, I was not a fan of their most recent album. On the track SOS, Brandon sings this line, "Why do I do the things I don't want to do, when all they do is hurt me?" Look, to some people, they may relate to that, but to me, those lyrics are so generically written. I just roll my eyes. I cannot relate to that at all. And look, being cynical, I start to view his lyrics then as, like dollar signs dotting the I's and lowercase j's. Is he making songs that are so easily accessible because, they'll sell well and they won't alienate anyone? I mean, if so, that's incredibly lame, but I can't speak to whether that's true or not. Expecting for me to find an emotional connection in this album is like expecting me to find an emotional connection to the real people on a TLC reality show. It's so formulaic. You can see the thematic highs and lows coming from a mile away. I mean, I don't feel anything from songs like When You Look at Me, and why should I? It's not speaking to me, it's speaking to everyone. The track When I Was Young tells a number of cute stories of young Brandon. He shows off his quirky comedic lyrics, which I think he's very good at, and he does so on a number of other tracks. The track Girl of My Dreams has the same formula as When I Was Young, really personal, touching verses, but really generalized mass appeal flavored choruses. Oh, can I just say, I'm really sick of the phrase, "You're all I need." That could mean so many different things. And frankly, it basically comes across as you make me happy, you make me complete, you make me feel at peace, which is incredibly trivial and short-sighted of the gospel. With lyrics and themes as broad-brushed as this album is, you would probably be more spiritually productive if you just put on instrumental music and read the Bible. A couple other thoughts, though, in closing. Firstly, these songs seem to be crafted with the title lyric like on a platform. It's all decorated around that high point leading up to it. It's like this cheesy centerpiece where he has a lyric, and you can tell he's leading up to the title lyric. Secondly, why does every song have to be so overly meta? Have a little subtlety, for goodness sake. How dumb do you think the audience is? Like on Everything Must Go, you don't need the chorus and the bridge to so overtly explain the point that the verses are making. It's obvious to anyone who's paying attention. Maybe he just assumes that you aren't listening to the verses and you'll only hear the choruses. My thoughts overall on this album, some of these songs are instrumentally tasteless and bland, nothing to grab onto. Others are unique and vibrant, others are simple and authentic, but all these songs together don't make for a great album. They don't make for an absolute abomination, but they don't make for a great album. But then you bring the lyrics into this, and this album is a complete pass. It does not make sense to me as a worship album, and it's something I probably won't be listening to again, which is a shame because I did like some of the instrumentals. Anyway, that's what I listened to this last week. If you did listen to these albums or you listened to other albums, let me know in the comments. I'd love to talk with you guys about these. I'll see you next week with some more mini reviews. See ya.